Yo, what's up, internet? Vegabomber here, and yeah, you know what I'm about to do. I'm about to give you the goods about the latest movie that I've seen. And this weekend, the movie that opened was Conjuring 2. So, just so you know, first off, I did see the first film, and I did like the first film. But I've got to say, I think I like Conjuring 2 about that much more. This movie was a good movie. So, Conjuring. You might remember the first one came out. It was James Wan, who you remember did the Fast and the Furious 7. He's done Insidious and a couple other projects, but this is his domain. He knows how to do modern horror, and he does it well. And in this case, he's got a solid story. So what did I like about this film? Well, I'll start off with the performances. The performances in this film were great. So you had basically Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson, and then this newcomer, this girl, I hadn't seen her before, but Madison Wolfe play Janet. And Janet was the girl that was feeling the most from the entity that was kind of possessing or haunting their home. But just to get back to the main couple, this is really taken from the files of Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are in real life Ghostbusters, if you will. Yeah, they're the ones who go and investigate paranormal activities. They've been around for a while. Of course, Ed today is passed, but his wife Lorraine is still alive. And of course, nowadays, she gets talked to a lot about paranormal activities and all this kind of interesting things. But the idea that this film is grounded in something that was really taking place. They're real people that really are family that really did go and investigate these cases. Now, you can argue back and forth whether you think that these things are hoaxes or not, but it is a real study. People do study things that we don't quite understand. But at any rate, the performances. So I'd have to say that you really needed well, I'll say it this way. Horror films are notorious for just not having really great performances. You don't really have any big name actors in it. I think Sinister was one of my favorite films too that was a horror film because it did have Ethan Hawke in it. It had an actor who could deliver a real performance. Most of the times you see the performances in horror movies, they're just enough to get by. You just need to be able to run down halls and scream and yell when something bad happens and mostly just react. Well, this movie, I would say, The Conjuring 2, sets itself apart from all the other horror films because it does have good actors in it. There are good performances. That way it's trying to really push its story well. And in this case, Patrick Wilson playing Ed Warren and then Vera Farmiga playing Lorraine Warren does a great job of just showing actually the bond that these two have together. I mean, most people might think that Lorraine is kind of weird because of the feelings and premonitions that she can sense, she can feel. But these two are a couple and they have each other's back, and the whole idea of marriage, believe it or not, is shown up in this film. And usually you don't see horror films take on any real themes other than just fear, scaring, and intensity, but not this film. This film actually kind of got you to care about the characterization because the performances were that good. Patrick Wilson was that good, and so was Vera Farmiga. But then who really has to sell it is the little girl, Janet, the one who's possessed by the entity. And I believe her name is Madison Wolfe. She does an excellent job of doing more than just screaming and running and all that sort of thing. The slow moments where she has to sell it. She has to sell some of the idea of the dread and the terror she feels because of the things that she can see and the things that are happening in the house. You buy it. So that little girl, she acted her butt off. This movie, because of the performances alone, is top notch. Another great thing about The Conjuring 2 is also the story. So if you have great performances, it's probably because there's a really good story written as well that the characters could dive into and therefore giving you a good performance. And the story is good. So the story in The Conjuring 2 is that you've got this couple, the Warrens, who investigate these type of special paranormal activity type deals, and they're on their end. They're at their end. They're ready to go ahead and just shut it down. They've had enough of it. But one more case pops up, and this time it's not in the States. Everything they had done had been pretty much on the East Coast, but now this new threat or this new occurrence is happening in England. So they come over to England, and this was the one that was known as the Enfield. It was the Enfield poltergeist. That's what it was. Yeah. And so the story is, hey, we're going to go ahead and get together one last time, and we're going to go over there and just do this, but only just to observe. We're not going to try to go into full investigation mode or any of that stuff, just to observe, so that then the church can then decide if they want to go in and try to help this family, because they have to make sure, is it a hoax or is it real? So the storyline, really good, and in fact, there's even a twist in here that you don't really maybe see necessarily coming, and that's also good. I mean, when have you seen a horror movie that's actually smart? In fact, this movie is kind of like the Ex Machina of horror films, in terms of the Ex Machina was a good film for sci-fi that just came out that people kind of maybe missed. Well, people will probably miss this movie. I think it's the Ex Machina. It's really that smart, it's really that intelligent, and it's really well done. Now, a big thing about horror movies is sometimes you can kind of get dull with these kind of films because the tropes are usually there. The same old stuff there, like the jump scares. Like all of a sudden, it gets quiet, it gets loud, boom, and then all of a sudden there's a black cat that crosses the screen. And then, of course, because there's a black cat, you go, oh, I can rest. And then, the monster jumps out at you. Well, jump scares are kind of boring, they're dumb, they're predictable. We don't want to go to a movie just to see jump scares. We want to see real horror acted out. We want to see people who are really scared, and suspense is the best. It's like the tightening of a rubber band. You don't know how far you can pull that rubber band until before it finally snaps, and then it might hit you in the face or, whatever. But the tension in this movie, I have to hand it to James Wan. He created such incredible drama and tension with just the way this movie was shot, the way the cinematography is, the way it's shot. He uses the full screen to give you things off the camera and on the camera that you have to kind of be thinking about as you're watching the reactions of this girl and where this person's going. I mean, it builds the tension, which a good horror film does, and this film does that. I'd also say that the sound design was pretty good. So you got to go see this in a nice theater with all the multiple surround sounds, because the sounds off screen and the sounds on screen are so precise, so clear, so clean, you can hear them, and it just adds to that creepy effect. And again, that's what I want. I want my horror films to creep me out, and this film had some spine-tingling moments in it, for sure. I remember getting chills in a couple spots in this film because the tension was just that good. But wait, there's even more, kids, to love about this film. There's actually humor in this film. And it's not cheesy or at a bad time or in any kind of way diffuse the tension that's there. The humor that's in it actually gives this film some soul. And I don't want to go into it any further than that, because this is the non-spoiler edition of this. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a spoiler piece yet, but for sure for now, I'll just say that, the humor that was in it was pretty funny. Patrick Wilson delivers some lines pretty good when he's impersonating Elvis in this case, and it's hilarious. It works, and it kind of helps add some feel to these people. They're just not these nameless, faceless people who are being terrified by this nameless, faceless entity that shows itself towards the middle and the end of the movie. It isn't. This really has this feel of what family's about and what it's supposed to mean, and why you would stick together and why you would resist anything that would come to encroach upon your family's safety. I mean, it's all there. And they use humor as one of the elements to kind of pull them together. And for that, I just say, good job. Kudos. Way to play it like a boss, James Wan. Way to play it like a boss, because it is. So you probably wonder, what did I give this film? Well, here in Vegabomber land, we don't do all that middle grade stuff. Either the film was good enough for you to go spend the money on it, or it wasn't. So when a film is good here in Vegabomber land, we say the film is blowing up. And when a film is absolutely horrible, we say that that's a film that needs to get blown up. Detonated, because it doesn't need to exist. And I would say this movie, The Conjuring 2, is way blown up. I will tell you to go see it. It's probably the smartest horror film that we've had, and I can't remember how long. Maybe it's the only one. I have to go and fact check that. But this film is smart. This film has soul to it. This film definitely has the tension and the scares in it. It will scare you. So go see the movie. This is Vegabomber, and I am out.